Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to James Cameron.
I almost bailed on being a filmmaker. It's about sitting in that big dark room with all those other people you don't know, and something's gonna come up on that screen that's gonna take you somewhere.
I'm the king of the world! Woo! Welcome back to James Cameron 101. I am your host, Eddie Green. Super excited to welcome Mr. Simon Crane.
Hi there.
You were you were the stunt coordinator, correct, on Titanic?
Yeah, I was the stunt coordinator on that. Yeah.
Incredible. And you also did some, correct me if I'm wrong, you did some, what is it, second unit, like directing?
Not on Titanic. I played Fourth Officer Boxhall because anyone with an English accent was actually cast in the movie.
Okay.
And I jumped off the top of the Titanic a few times for action sequences.
Okay. So so I'm wondering why I'm thinking you did like second unit directing. You've never done that for Cameron?
Not for Cameron, no.
Interesting. All right, so let's go back to get it great here. Aliens first, because that was sort of your introduction into James Cameron's world, correct?
Yes, I was a stunt performer on that one. I was one of the aliens numerous times, getting shot or blown up, and I was a stunt double for Bill Paxton. Yeah, he's a lovely guy. I worked with him, several times. Obviously, Titanic, and more recently was Edge of Tomorrow with Bill.
Oh, I love Edge of Tomorrow. I love his role in that, like that kind of Sergeant R. Lee Ermey character to Tom Cruise. Yeah. He was great in that. Oh man, I miss him so much. But Aliens, how did you get how did Aliens come into your life? Like you were just
well, I was a jobbing, stunt performer, and the stunt coordinator, Paul Weston, brought me in. And, I was sort of, those days I was quite skinny and tall. And so they needed people, to dress in alien suits. So, I was one of those. So, we're fitted in, alien, zipped in, put the head on, and then you're coated in KY gel. It was, you could hardly walk with a 6-foot-long tail.
Wow. And so at that point, 86, Cameron really he's not Cameron, right? He's James Cameron, but he's not what the world imagines now when you say the name James Cameron. He had only done The Terminator, right? So
yeah, but I don't think he's changed. I think he's very focused on what he wants. He's totally got it in his mind how he wants to do it and how he wants actors to perform or stunts to go. So he's got a very clear direction. And okay, yes, he didn't have that big name right then, but he did know. He's very intelligent and basically knew everyone's job.
So when you got Aliens, had you already seen Alien? Were you familiar with it?
Yes, no, I was.
Yeah,
I was very familiar with it.
Were you sort of starstruck when you were face to face with Sigourney?
Yes, a few times, but wearing those alien suits was pretty uncomfortable, especially we were on these old-fashioned, wire rigs, which really cut, practically want to cut you in half, and so it was extremely uncomfortable. So no, I didn't really care about who I met.
Yeah, Aliens is like, what do you think about Aliens? Like the finished product? Are you a massive fan of it? Is it hard to kind of separate your involvement?
No, I can do that quite easily. No, I enjoyed watching the movie. It's got fast paced. It's got its boo scares, and it's a good action movie.
It really is.
Which probably still holds up now.
100%. Yeah, yeah. Did you by chance go on to Alien 3? Do any kind of stunts on the third one?
I did. Yes. In Alien 3, I wasn't an alien anymore. I played the part of one of the convicts. And, so we had all our heads shaved and stuff like that, barcode stamped on it. And, I did various stunts in that. Maybe I did do some alien stuff. I can't remember, actually. It's a long time ago.
So let's talk a little bit about Titanic, because that's definitely the one I'm more familiar with, and I think that's sort of, in my opinion, it's the most epic film ever made. It's the biggest film ever made, and nothing is going to top that, in my opinion. Even though he's gone on and done Avatar, and then that beat it in terms of box office, but just the grand scope, the real practicality of Titanic, even though there's some CGI, mixed in there, but a lot of it is practical, as you can attest to. Um,
Yeah.
how does so do does Jim give you a call? Because that's always like the fun thing to say, right? I got a call from Jim. Did you actually get a call from Jim?
No, I was sort of brought over there for an interview. So they flew me over. I'd just recently done, I think, Goldeneye, one of the Bond films, and stuff like that. And I was known for doing sort of big scale stuff. So they brought me over for an interview with Jim. And, you're sitting there in his office just chatting away, and he was talking about water movies, things like that. And I was just about to say, I've never seen a really good underwater movie, when I noticed the sign for The Abyss just
Yeah.
sitting behind me. And I thought, oh my God, I nearly lost that job.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, well, The Abyss is also another one that I was very unfamiliar with, and then he just recently put it out for like a re-release, and I was able to catch it. And again, kind of just going back to why I'm even doing a podcast dedicated to him. It's an amazing film, but it is sort of one of those ones that not a lot of people talk about. So I, even at that point, I understand why, maybe it kind of slipped your mind, or because he was the Terminator guy probably at that point.
Well, yeah, but like with The Abyss, I think they sort of ran out of money towards the end, and
Right.
so the whole third act didn't really, they just had to get it done. So that was a shame for Jim, because he had to work really hard on that.
Were you familiar with like a lot of the like the real life kind of history of the Titanic when you were doing this, or were you very just I've heard of the Titanic and that's about it?
No, I knew quite a bit about it. And as soon as I got the job, my God, we did a hell of a lot of research into what happened, who did what, and we were trying to make it as accurate as possible, and a lot of research went into that.
What do you remember the very first sort of big stunt that you worked on, or that you were kind of trying to coordinate? Like what was the like kind of walk us through the like the day to
The
day
first,
like
well, really, um, the first big action stuff was the tilting of the poop deck. So, we basically had a 100-foot section that went up to 90 degrees, and there were 500 people on that, of which 110, I think, were stunt performers. And they all had to do action either they were cable drops or they were free falls. So that all had to be worked out what angle was the best way you could do what would look like a free fall tumble, but you could still control yourself. So is that 30 degrees? Is that 25 degrees? I think it was like, in the end, we ended up with like 28 degrees or something like that, but 45 degrees, you have no control. So, it's when you've got 100 people falling down that deck in one shot, that is equivalent to 100 stair falls, so to speak, because they're tumbling, hitting things, bouncing off. So if you think we did that eight times, 8 takes of that one shot, that is equivalent to 800 stair falls. And in those 800 stair falls, I think we had 3 minor injuries, which is really pretty good going. The safety on that was pretty critical.
Was there also a mix of because you said there was, like 500, but like there was a mix of CGI, right, in there as well? They were going to add in.
Not on that poop deck. That was all real people falling down the deck. And we had a couple of CG people on the other side, but bouncing off a propeller, which
Right.
it was me and one other guy that did the motion capture for that. So a lot of people were wired in on the poop deck, so they couldn't move,
Uh-huh.
especially when it went up to 90 degrees. The actors were on there as well at the top. and everyone was falling or tumbling around them.
Wow. Are you taught so because there's that really incredible shot that's always been stuck in my head ever since I saw this film at a very young age, which was probably not the best time to watch it. I forget. I was probably 12 or something when I first saw Titanic, but there's an incredible shot of, I thought it was a CGI character, but it probably was, but you said you did motion capture, and he's falling and he hits the propeller blade and he spins
Yeah.
into the water. Was that
Well, we did at the end of the movie. There were two of us, myself and Leo's stunt double, which is a guy, Joey Box. We we got in those suits with all the balls on it, and we jumped off, not from high, but jumped off various things, hitting things on the way down, or like a bar which was padded that would somersault us round and stuff like that. So whether they used that, I don't know, but we did it.
Yeah, because you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? That shot where the guy is, that's amazing. Like, so it probably did play into it. That would be kind of worthy of kind of figuring out if that actually was something like, you doing your box
They
tumbling.
might have used it. They didn't. Certainly someone would have jumped off for real off the back, but not collided with the propeller.
Oh, yeah, that's always been stuck in my head. And then, of course, as the ship is going down and you see people, and I'm pretty sure those are also CGI characters. They're on the side of the ship, and the ship is sort of like, kind of as it's going down, the water's coming out of the ship and shooting them off like a rocket. Yeah, like this is one again, back to why it's one of the most epic films in my opinion, is the practicality, and you can really tell that a lot of it is just old fashioned, stunts and
Well, we did, for that movie, we did like 3 months of rehearsals. One, with descender falls, other types of falls, and not just for the poop deck, but just like, at one stage where you have the grand staircase, where there's all those performers, standing there, and all the water comes in. Well, that was I think it was 300 tons of water.
Yeah, see, okay, so I'm gonna geek out here for a second because my all-time favorite scene in the film, and I hope that you worked on this because it's one heck of a stunt. It's Leo and Kate are going, they're running away from Cal, who's shooting at them. They go down a corridor. There's a little kid who's screaming for his father, and the father comes, pushes them away, runs toward a door that's blocking a lot of water. And then the door bursts open and everyone is rushing away.
His father grabs the kid. The father grabs the kid, and then I think we dumped. The kid was a dummy at this stage, but the guy was real. He's a Czech stunt performer. His name is Martin Hub, and he got hit by, I think it was 150 tons of water.
Oh my God! So you were there watching that filmed.
Yeah. Well, we had a lot of safety because when he got hit, we were filming in Rosarito, and he nearly ended up in Ensenada, which is 30 miles away. But no, it's like he came out with some force. And when we were doing all these water scenes, we had all these LA lifeguards, so they're all there with their orange thingies and ready to go in and protect him. But he got swept a hell of a long way.
Yeah, that's just every time I see the film, it gives me goosebumps. That scene, the music, the fact that it is real water. This isn't fake water. This is just, again, an old fashioned stunt. We're gonna put a guy in front of a door. We're gonna open that door, and then it's just what happens. And of course, there's a lot of coordination going on, and absolutely, but it's still like, water's unpredictable. It's but then, of course, there's the Leo and Kate running down the hall. Of course, the stunt doubles, and they had to CGI their faces out for the slow-mo shot. And to my understanding, that's Kate's double, Sarah Franzel.
Yeah.
And then who's Leo's double again?
Joey Box was Leo's stunt double.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping to talk to them at some point because I have to get their experience of what that was like, because as a kid, you're thinking, oh my gosh, that's so fun. They're just running away from water. But then as you grow up and you understand, physics and life and danger and all this stuff, plus you factor in the story elements of this isn't like warm water. This is super freezing cold water that they're trying to run away from. It just all comes together in this epic. Seriously, it's my favorite action scene of all time. Like that exact scene right there. It's absolutely incredible stuff. So, you had a hand in it. So I applaud you for that because it's super.
There's a lot of testing that goes into it because, at the end of the day, we want to make it look dangerous, but we want to make it as safe as possible. The stunt person's job is to minimize the risk, not necessarily take it.
Right.
There's always a risk, but like the job is to minimize the risk.
Right. So, so that's that. I just had to get your your insight on that scene, and then of course you fast forward to the ship sinking itself. Absolutely incredible stuff. The breaking of the ship. Was there a lot of stunt coordinating on that? I know a lot of that is like miniatures and mixed with CGI.
A lot of that was miniatures. We did some stunt falls, some effects with dump tanks and stuff like that. But no, it was the scale of everything. Nothing much happened with just a few people. It was, 50 to 100 people, stunt people, doing stunts in a big scene.
Right. So all of this, right? You do all of this for months and months, right? You're stunt coordinating. You're asked to play a character that you were like, what? I have to play a character now. So then it wraps, right? The production wraps. Is it weird to now suddenly just go back to your normal life to like let Titanic go?
Always at the end of a movie, it always takes at least a week to 2 weeks to adjust to normal life.
Right.
Because we were working at nights. We were doing 6 nights a week for 8 months. So and often, like on the last day of shooting, it was the sinking of the ship where you're behind the captain and all the windows blow in.
Right.
And basically, they turned that set into a submarine, sunk it, and then blew those windows. And the water came in, hit the stunt double. I was safety behind him, hiding in the corner. And as they blew everything, I mean, a split second later, that thing was full of water. I was expecting it to come in like jets, but it didn't. It just 1 second you were there, and breathing normal air. Next you weren't, and it was full of water. And I went out searching for him, to see that he was okay, and I couldn't find him. So, I was wrapped up in the door because that got blown in as well, and so I was starting to look around. Other people were coming in. So I then went up, and there he was having a cup of tea, with and everything was fine. But I was sort of like on edge, thinking I'd missed him.
Yeah, I found out, and I had no clue about this, that originally that role was going to go to Robert De Niro. Did you know about that?
No, I didn't.
Apparently, the role was going to go to Robert De Niro, and he had to turn it down because he had a gastrointestinal infection. And then it went over to, then they had to scramble and find someone else. It's so like, I can't even imagine De Niro as the captain. Like,
no, I mean, Bernard looked like the real captain.
If you actually hold a photo of the two, like the real captain and Bernard next to each other, it's amazing how uncanny they got. So that was all meant to be, De Niro. Yeah. He's doing okay. So when you wrap a film, that's very bizarre to just all of a sudden go back to real life.
Suddenly, we would, like I say, working 6 nights a week for 8 months, and the last shot of the movie was actually a 22-hour night. In that we started at 3 in the afternoon, worked all night into the day of the following day, and we worked like 22 hours. But that included doing the one stunt where Bernard Hill character, the captain, is at the steering wheel, the windows blow in, and he drowns.
Awesome, awesome. Also, I will say, just in case you ever do anything in the future, similar to this, you sound a lot better without those earbuds.
All right.
Your audio just like went up 10 times in terms of quality.
Oh my
So,
God.
um, but yeah, so wrapping Titanic, it's absolutely insane. So when it comes out and it starts to become, you know, it starts to like pick up speed at the box office, are you going, oh my God? Or did you kind of feel like that was going to happen?
No, towards the end of it, Jim had cut together like a show reel, you know, of the key elements, and
Right.
he put music to it, and we were all blown away. And you just knew it was going to be great. You just didn't know how great it was.
Right. Yeah, I love the film so much. I can never I literally never get enough of it, and so that's why I'm doing all these talks with everybody. I can just talk about it endlessly. But from that point on, that's his last film. He takes a super long break, and then he gets into the Avatar stuff.
Yeah.
Of course, in between there, he does a couple documentaries, Ghosts of the Abyss, Aliens of the Deep. But what like has there been any kind of chat involved when it comes to the Avatar stuff, or is that's just a whole other world?
Not really, because you sort of move on in that I went from stunt coordinator to action director, and that's what I sort of do now. Okay, I oversee all the action, but I'm directing it as well. So that job doesn't exist for me on a James Cameron movie.
Interesting. Okay. But like when was the last time if you can remember, when was the last time you talked to Jim? Was it around the Titanic time, or did you talk to him since then? Or
No, I think I bumped into him at an event, you know, and we had you know, a fun time, fun chat.
interesting, interesting. So you go on from Titanic, you like you said, you mentioned Edge of Tomorrow, which is a phenomenal film. Was that just kind of
Well,
briefly talk about that?
I went straight from Titanic onto Saving Private Ryan. So
Right.
from one big film to the the next big film,
Right.
and you know, it was a totally different working experience, but you know, just very different, but as challenging as Titanic was.
Right. Yeah, that's amazing. You go from working with James Cameron to working with Steven Spielberg in a matter of just a year. That's
Yeah,
not a lot of people can say that they've done that. That they worked with the two arguably of the biggest directors of all time, uh, such a short amount of time.
yeah, it was different. Well, before Titanic, I'd sort of just done Braveheart. So I went. They were the three of my greatest films I think I've ever worked. So, but it was all over the space of 3 years.
Yeah. So what's the because now you said you're not a stunt coordinator, you're an action director, is what you said?
Yeah, you know, so like on the bigger movies, they often have sort of, you've got the main unit directors, you know, that is in charge of the movie, but then you have an action director that's doing the action sequences. So like say Troy, you know, I think main unit shot for 90 days, second unit or the action unit shot for 110 days, but that was doing all the battles, all the, you know, the Hector Achilles fight, all that stuff, which
Right.
takes time.
Right. What are you working on currently? Is there anything you're working on that you can just briefly talk about, or is it all secret right now?
It's a bit secret at the moment just because it's at early stages.
Okay. What was the very last thing that's come out
The,
that
the
you did?
last thing hasn't come out yet, but it comes out soon. It's with Matt Damon and Casey Affleck, and it's a movie called Instigators.
Instigators.
Yes.
All right. I'm gonna keep an
Shot
eye
in
out for that.
Boston.
I'm gonna keep an eye out for that. But you kind of answered the one of the questions I wanted to save for the end there. What's the thing you're most proud of? And it sounds like you're most proud of Braveheart, Titanic, and Saving Private Ryan. All
Well, I like watching what I believe to be real movies, you know, where people are doing things for real. I'm a great believer in less is more, you
right.
know, so if you can't afford to do it properly, then sort of just, there's my wife in the background, sorry about that. But if you can't afford to do it properly, don't do it. And CG isn't always the answer. I think it's a combination of CG, effects, stunts to get a, you know, a good action sequence, but the most important thing being story and character.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. And that's sort of why I'm kind of, I still am a fan of the Avatar films, but they're just a little harder to get into, knowing,
Yeah.
you know, knowing that a lot of that is not even actually happening. It's all in that computer. And it's, again, they are great stories, but man, when you go back to Cameron, and that's sort of what I love about Cameron is he mastered the old, right? He mastered the old kind of way of making movies. And then he moved into now what is the future. And he's doing that now. And he's thriving in that. And it's absolutely incredible. So you have kind of the best of both worlds. You know, if you're not a big fan of the Avatar stuff, you can go back to the Terminator and True Lies and Abyss and all that stuff and get your fix that way. But as we wrap up here, I always save the question for every guest. What is your absolute favorite? And it doesn't have to be one you worked on. What's your absolute favorite Cameron film?
I liked Terminator 2. I thought it was very groundbreaking what they were doing for real, and very original.
Right. Okay. Terminator 2. Yeah, that's
Terminator 2 stroke True Lies.
Look, I could talk to you for a lot longer, but I wanna save your time and respect your time. So thank you so much for coming on here. We had a little technical glitch there in the middle, but it is what it is. I'll edit it out and make it seem seamless. So
Okay, great.